The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Hello, I'm Rory Smith in the GB Newsroom. We're going to start with some breaking news, and 7 people have been charged with the attempted murder of Detective Chief Inspector John Caldwell in Northern Ireland. DCI Caldwell was shot multiple times at a sports complex in Omagh in February. 4 other people who were arrested as part of the investigation were released earlier today, pending a report to the Public Prosecution Service. The investigation is ongoing. Holly Willoughby has broken her silence on Philip Schofield's affair with a young ITV employee, saying she is hurt by his deceit. Holly released a statement on social media saying when the reports of the relationship first surfaced, she asked Philip directly if it was true, and he told her it was not. She says it's been very hurtful to now find out this was a lie. Philip resigned yesterday after admitting the affair, describing it as unwise but not illegal. Mail and Sunday journalist Charlotte Griffiths says people in the industry must have known.
There was a video of him having lunch in a cafe with this young man, although I think he was 18 at the time. So it was the worst kept secret. You have to take him at his word. You know, Holly must have asked him about this. People around him must have asked him about this, and he must have lied. That's what he said, and that's all we know right now.
Well, GB News presenter and former This Morning host Eamon Holmes has hit out at Philip, saying he's finally been caught out. On social media, he said 4 high members of ITV management knew what sort of man he was and never once took action to prevent him controlling or taking advantage of his position over young people. Well, ITV says it did investigate the rumours of a relationship between Schofield and the employee in 2020, but found no evidence to support the claims, as both parties denied it. Well, in other news, the Home Office says the border control system failure at multiple UK airports has now been fixed. Earlier, thousands of people travelling for the bank holiday faced delays after a technical fault on the e-gates. Passports for those arriving into the UK had to be checked by hand rather than the automated machines. Well, Home Office has thanked those impacted for their patience. 2 Just Stop Oil protesters have been arrested for disrupting the Gallagher Premiership rugby final at Twickenham. 37-year-old Dr. Patrick Hart from Bristol and 40-year-old Sam Johnson from Essex ran onto the pitch midway through the first half of the match before throwing orange paint powder onto the field. Play was suspended as the men were escorted from the stadium by stewards. TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn, this is GB News.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and joining me to have a good old chin wag about Sunday's newspapers are Headliners veteran Scott Capurro and a new recruit for Headliners. It's Victor Daniels. Welcome, Victor.
Hey, welcome.
First time.
I know, I'm nervous. I feel like Candace Owen right now.
Do you? You're a Headliners virgin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you happy, Scott, today?
We're going to groom him as well as possible.
Whoa.
Let's not use language like that, Scott.
We've got to get him going.
OK, we're going to start by looking at Sunday's front pages. The Mail on Sunday is leading with Schofield's lover was just 15 when they met. We'll get to that in a moment. Sunday's Telegraph has Sunak asks stores to cap basic food prices. There's also a story there. Trans lobby group helped NHS plan treatment of children. We'll be getting to that one too. The Observer is leading with ministers in bitter fight to halt release of COVID secrets. The Sun, Holly Willoughby, Phil lied to me. Sunday Express has We Can Cut Migration and Thrive. And the Daily Star. It's Holly Willoughby again. I'm so hurt, Phil lied to me. Those were your front pages. So we're going to kick off with the front cover of the Mail on Sunday. Scott, what are they leading with?
Well, they're talking about Schofield's lover was just 15 when they met, and he was, and then the kid got a job when he's an adult at the station where he worked, and then they continued the relationship. They established a relationship at that point.
Right.
And now Holly's angry, and her feelings are hurt because she's not getting laid.
That's
what the article says. She says, no one will hit on me. Why not me? I think this was bad. It's competitive, right? She's like, I'm only 41. I can't get an 18-year-old. How come he can? Oh, man.
Well, Scott, that's an interesting take on this story.
Well, it is, right? She's angry because she's not seen as a romantic lead, and he is.
That's her only issue with this whole thing.
Well, she's upset because she was lied to.
No, you know what?
She was lied to, yeah.
The kid worked at the station when he's an adult.
Yes.
He got together with Schofield. They all knew. She knew. She's not been lied to. She's using this as a cover because she wants to keep her job.
She says today she has been lied to.
She wants to wear the floral print dresses. What she's angry about is that no one's saying to her, oh, what about your romantic interest? No one cares.
Now, Victor, this is an interesting one, because when I saw the headline earlier, it said Schofield lover was just 15 when they met. 15 is underlined for dramatic effect. I thought, well, we call the police. This is an underage individual.
That's what I was thinking.
But then you read it, second paragraph, no, the relationship started after he was 18, an adult. So in other words, this is a story about two consenting adults having a sexual affair. Why do I care?
Well, there's a bit... I don't want to use that word, but if you've met someone when they're 15 and then now they're 18, you was talking to them when they were 15.
Yes.
They went on dates. He must be took her to like chicken shops and
that's
stuff.
a squeamishness that a lot of us probably have.
That's what's
but there's no law being broken here, is there?
No.
I mean, this is what I find a bit weird about this. There does seem to be a degree of hysteria around this. If the second that someone has slept with someone who's underage, prosecution, throw the book at them, make sure that we drag them through the mud, and yes, it's a public interest story.
Right.
I can't help but feel this is all going a bit far for what we are dealing with, a sexual relationship between adults, consenting adults.
What a shock that a famous celebrity has, a partner that's 40 years his junior. It happens all the time in showbiz. All the time.
Doesn't Leonardo DiCaprio have quite a few age gaps?
One after another.
So
gender fluid ones too. I think what this story is saying here is that Schofield is on a TV show that's in the morning, and he's seen as sort of, even though he'd lied about his sexuality and he divorced it, or his marriage fell apart over it, he's still seen as this cuddly teddy bear, and how he wouldn't do.
People think of the gopher, don't they? They're still thinking of Gordon the gopher and that sort of sweet.
Yeah, there's all that. I mean,
I think free country. People should be able to morally judge anyone else however they see fit, all the rest of it. But, some of the stuff I've seen online has been defamation.
I think the problem is that he met him when he was 15 and he helped him get the job. And for anyone watching at home, Philip did not help me get this job.
That's what you say, Victor.
No,
I think in a way, I think this kid scored. He met a hot, mature...
I don't know about hot.
Well... All right.
Again, subjective.
Hot enough, and he met somebody he was attracted to that helped him in his career, and that they had a relationship. I don't see that's a problem at all.
But I mean,
it's the meeting of 15. I mean, it's a bit.
I think they met at a school function, and then he got a job.
Oh my gosh, it even gets worse. So they met at school, and then he got a job 3 years later. There's a problem.
So people also love the show, don't they? They love This Morning, and I think they feel personally offended that he lied about his relationship. Whereas I don't care because I don't know him.
And on top of that, he was married. I mean,
so people are angry about the adultery, and
how could he? Again, it's ridiculous, it's absurd. It makes people seem like they're children, like they had no idea these things go on.
I mean, that's my only concern about this, is the way it's being spun to imply something very untoward.
The reaction is homophobic. It is. It is.
No. I don't think it's homophobic. I think
because they think he was grooming this kid when he was 15 because he's a guy. I think if it was a man and a 15-year-old woman that he met, and then he met her again when she was 18, people wouldn't be so...
No, but I think
Victor, come in.
If he was married to a man, and then he met this and had an affair with this man, then it's different. But he was married to a woman, and now he's had an affair with a man. I think that's just too much for people's minds to process.
Too much luck. People are jealous.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
This is a complicated issue which we're hardly going to resolve
sheets are on fire.
Let's move on now to the Telegraph. Now, there's a number of interesting stories on the front of the Telegraph, Victor. What have you spotted?
Well, there's this one about trans lobby group helped the NHS plan treatment for children. For people at home who don't understand what I'm talking about, if a child is 12, this trans lobby group, which are called mermaids, provide treatment for 12-year-olds who are considering changing their sexes.
Now, you know, I think the name mermaids is a really badly chosen name because mermaids, of course, lure people to their deaths on the rocks. So not a great idea. But anyway, no, this is, I mean, what we're discovering now is that Susie Green, who is the CEO of Mermaids, had direct access to the Tavistock and Portman gender paediatric clinic, right? Now, we have to be clear about what this woman is, right? So Susie Green, when her son was a toddler and started crawling before the dolls and liked the dolls and wanted his hair long, she decided that meant he was trans.
Yes.
Also, the father was upset because he was playing with dolls and things, and there was a homophobic element to that. And then when he was 16, she flew him to Thailand to have a sex change operation.
Now, she has no specific skills medically. She's merely an activist.
She's just an activist mother who took her 16-year-old kid to be effectively sterilised.
So we got some questions here.
Yes, we do.
First of all, how does she get a direct line to the doctor? I can't even book an appointment.
Really
let
good
alone
question.
a direct line.
You have to get up at 7:30, Victor.
Oh, is that what it is?
You have to be on that phone. You make a really good point, though. Why is it that an activist gets to inform NHS policy about something which we now know has been putting thousands of children at risk?
But government agencies solicit the advice of non-professional charities all the time.
So I can jump in there.
They do, but when it
schools do, universities do, and so do.
But Scott, the reason why this is so important, I think, is that because since Hannah Barnes did this study, Time to Think, on the Tavistock, and we now know that the majority of kids who were referred to the Tavistock were autistic or on the autistic spectrum.
Oh wow!
And a major majority were same-sex attracted. In other words, you have these parents who notice that their little boy likes to play with dolls or their little girl likes football, gender non-conforming kids, and they say, quick, we've got to fix them, right? We've got to get them in there. Isn't this just fixing gay kids, basically?
Fixing, wow.
Well, I don't think you can fix them. I think they're just damaged.
But you're putting them on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones in order to hedge. They do it in Iran.
But maybe some of the girls want to become boys so they can win at egg spoon race. I mean,
but there's always that possibility. It's a great way for your sporting career. Victor.
They're going to hurt their hamstrings, though. We're going to talk about that later in the show. But I think also the whole thing's been questioned now, and the mermaid activity in the NHS has been halted, and the Tavistock Clinic, at least the gender non-conforming Tavistock Clinic agency bit, has been halted as well. That's good.
Although the person in charge of reforming it is now saying there's no need for changing it because he's an activist too.
He is, yes.
Great appointment, guys.
And they did give access to this mermaid group, and the horrible thing is that they've altered permanently, in some cases, the lives of so many young people.
So can children at 12 be altered? Is it legal?
They can be put on puberty blockers.
We don't know the effects of those. The long-term effects.
You know, some of the studies that are coming out now are revealing that there can be some serious risks. So that hasn't been tested or tried. And in virtually all cases, puberty blockers go on to cross-sex hormones and then to surgery. So it is a very dangerous game.
The kids were experimental little guinea pigs. They were.
Yeah. OK, well, we're going to move on. There's another story on the front of the Telegraph which I want to talk about. It's Rishi Sunak will ask stores to cap basic food prices.
Yes, I'm a fan of this.
Yeah?
I think if we can get corned beef, eggs, jerk chicken, jollof rice, Chinese, your average kebab, if we can cap these prices,
Is it, Victor, that you just want them to cap price of the food that you like?
You want the snack?
We all like these foods. It's about time.
Oh, I'm a vegetarian, so I can't. Will they cap corn burgers
or the organic
and plant-based
No, they will never cap
What
that.
about my free-range chicken? Are they going to do that?
Yeah.
Scott, I mean, they're saying that this is the biggest attempt to sort of manage supermarket prices since Edward Heath in 1973. But maybe given the cost of living crisis and maybe given the fact that so many people are struggling, this is actually a really good idea for the basics. I mean, like for the bread and pasta.
Milk went up 30% in my shop the other day in one day. 30%.
Yeah, but you have lactose-free or something.
It's raw milk.
Is it almond milk?
Yeah.
It's
Sorry,
raw.
Victor, go on.
I bought 6 items and it cost me £20. It would have been cheaper if I had the club card. I mean, we just need to bring the prices down.
Or
It's
shoplift.
too much.
There's always that. You know, I used to shoplift a lot. It's really effective.
Yeah, let's not advocate shoplifting here on this
Well, it
channel.
helps with
No,
the budget.
we don't do that. OK, we're going to move on now. This is the front cover of The Observer. Scott, they're going with something different?
Oh, right. Ministers' bitter fight to halt the release of COVID secrets. Apparently, the deadline is approaching to hand over unredacted messages between Boris Johnson and his ministers around the COVID epidemic, and they want to block them from public view. Legal sources have said it's only a matter of days to launch legal action to quash the demands from Heather Hallett.
So why do they not want to release these messages?
Because they're too afraid that it will alert people that Boris mishandled the entire COVID.
But we, of course, do not know the content of these messages.
But obviously, they affect it negatively, and the Conservatives have an election coming up, and they're worried that this is going to... I mean, that's it for them.
The Tories are done anyway. They're toast.
Yeah, they're
they're not going to get. They're not going to.
I think some of them still have hopes, and I think Boris wants to come back.
Really?
Yeah.
And I think as well, a lot of people are looking at it, and not as just Tories or Labour. I think people are starting to look at the whole establishment nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. But do you think that Boris Johnson could seriously mount to come back in a sort of Donald Trump style?
I think so. Why
Really?
not? He's the most charismatic leader we've ever had. For me, he was a legend.
But the problem is, too, some of the negative reaction to him is that he was a liar. And if these prove that he was...
He's a politician. They all lie.
I mean,
that's terrible.
Well, it's very cynical, but probably accurate.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean...
If you don't lie as a politician, you won't get the
Why
job.
do we hold Philip Schofield at a higher level?
No, he's just a bit weird.
But, I mean, if he lied a bit and you're criticising him so much, he's not even elected.
You're saying we should hold our elected representatives to high standards, Scott?
Higher than those that work for ITV on TV.
I think a politician's only job is there to entertain us.
Well, they do a good job of that,
Yeah,
certainly.
exactly.
OK, well, look, that's the
Rishi's
front
a bit
pages.
boring now.
Thoroughly, Rishi is a bit boring. But anyway, those are the front pages thoroughly deconstructed. Do join us for the next section. We'll be talking about the Ukrainian counter-offensive, Labour counter-offensive, and Ron DeSantis counter-offensive. It'll be very offensive. See you in 2.
First and foremost, I'm a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by headliners on TV, radio and online. This is GB News. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. I'm Andrew Doyle. I'm joined tonight by Scott Capurro and Victor Daniels. So, Scott, we're going to kick off with The Observer, and summer's finally here, which can only mean one thing.
Ukraine is on a counteroffensive. That's what it means.
Oh.
Ukraine armed forces are flexing their arms. They're about to, bam, 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 go after Russia. It's about time. Haven't they been in war for a year? What's taking
But that's
so
the
long?
nature of the war. This has been happening quite a lot, hasn't it? What's new about this particular counteroffensive?
Oh, well, they're saying that they're training their soldiers with more help from the U.S., for one thing.
Right.
And that they're going to attack Russia and not just push the troops back. They're saying that they have no attachment to the people that are attacking different enclaves on the other side of the border in Russia.
Yes.
They say that those are troops that we've released from service. We don't look after them anymore, but we support what they're doing. But everybody assumes actually that those people that are attacking within Russia are because they're getting orders from Kiev.
It's so difficult to know, isn't it, Victor, like where this is going to go. It just seems like an endless war, and there's no real exit point.
Well, the New York Times said they were doing a loop. That's what it's a military strategy. It's this thing called an 8 loop, where the Kiev is sending people into Russia to come back toward Ukraine.
Have you heard the people that are going into Russia? The people going into Russia are far rights. So what intel are they going to come back with? Just attack the black Russians? It makes no sense.
The thing is, though, we keep hearing different reports, and it's difficult to know. I mean, I've heard from various sources that, Putin is, he's going to win this eventually. He just has to find a sort of reasonable exit strategy. But then you saw the victory parade where he had, like 1 tank? And he couldn't let the public come along because it was all a bit too limp. So that looks like he's losing, and so it's just impossible to know.
I think that his health is suffering too. He doesn't look great, and he's not making as many public appearances as he has in the past. So I think also too that their economy is really messed up in Russia. And the public's getting a bit sick of it.
But you were in Russia as the war began. I'm not trying to
the night the tanks rolled.
You was in Russia?
I was in.
I'm not suggesting you were part of it.
No, nothing to do with that. We flew over the Ukraine because I wanted to check out our investment. And once we got to St. Petersburg, all the local comedians were saying, "Oh no, it's all fake news. We're not involved in this. This isn't really happening." But we were in McDonald's getting the news in Moscow, right across from Red Square, saying, "No, it's happening."
So the locals weren't getting the news then? There was a surprise.
The Russians were getting the news. They just didn't believe it was occurring. They thought that the Ukraine was asking for it. They thought that Russia was helping them. They were asking for the help of Russia.
So think about what the kind of spin this is getting from a Russian citizen's perspective. It must be very different from what we're hearing at the moment.
But I thought we was hearing that they were fighting. It seems like the war's only just started. I mean, what's been going on? I mean, and some of the reports, they're talking about it on Telegram, and he's gone on Insta. What type of war is this? Are they fighting for followers?
It's a modern war, fighting it digitally. All right, we're going to move on to the Sunday Telegraph now. Victor, how badly does Labour want to win the next election?
Well, they want to win it pretty badly because it seems like they want to bring a curb on migration in the sense of if people want to come from other countries to work in here, they have a limited time to work. And for me, it's got its pros and cons. I mean, if you're a doctor or a lawyer, you spend 10 years. But if you work for Deliveroo, you deliver the food, and then after 6 hours, you've got to go back to your country. How does it work?
It's weird with Labour, though, isn't it? They often do this when it comes up to an election, because obviously the Tories like to say that they're tough on migration. But then the Labour will turn around and say, no, we're tougher on migration. Do you remember that time, I think, was it Ed Miliband, when they put the a mug. They created a Labour mug saying Labour, tough on migration. And they marketed it as a souvenir mug. But the thing, which is very strange, and then now they're trying to do a similar kind of thing. They're saying that we will be the ones that sort this issue out, because there have been incredible numbers now. Incredible.
But to be honest with you,
they're not really that incredible. They're not really that much more than the year before, even though larger numbers had been suggested. The numbers that actually turned out are not that big. And a lot of these people are...
Annual net migration, Scott, hit a record high of 606,000.
It's only about 50,000 over from the previous year. We do have a war in the Ukraine. A lot of people are coming from there. People are coming from Afghanistan. There's a lot of people coming over to fill NHS positions. Also, those numbers will shift over the next few months because students come and go as well. So a lot of students will be leaving. What they should probably think about is limiting the number of family members that students can bring with them. That's something I'm totally in support of. But these students bring so much money into the country. It's not a good idea to
And as
discourage
well,
them.
I think migration is needed, because when I go to a doctor and the guy's named Dr. Patel, I feel confident, I feel happy. If I go there and his name's Fat Tony from Canning Town and he's eating a kebab, I don't know if I want that guy to see me. So, migration. Have you been to Canning Town?
I want more Albanians to come in the country because my drug dealer died last month.
Oh, whoa.
Okay.
I don't support that.
And Scott, who I will remind you, is often joking and doesn't mean what he says.
I don't joke at all.
The NHS has discovered a subtle method for cutting waiting.
Apparently the eyes have it, literally. They're going to start decreasing the number of eye appointments, because 1 in 10 NHS appointments are for eye issues. So they've asked GPs to educate themselves more on questions to ask people around eye infections and eye problems.
That seems disproportionate to me.
I know, it's a lot. Isn't it?
1 in 10?
1 in 10. So many people are waiting for eye appointments.
Well, they're saying at the moment that there's now 7.3 million people on
the waiting list.
Yeah.
In England. That's unsustainable.
And then when it asks 500,000, I mean, how are they going to decide what conditions need to be asked? If you can't spell it, you don't need it.
Well, they're going to ask breast implants. So sorry, Andrew, they might have to remove yours. And child circumcisions, because these surgeries are not necessary.
So they're triaging effectively. They're basically saying we're going to cut the waiting list by just determining what's necessary.
Well, you've got
but they've also said that they're going to empower pharmacists or encourage people to ask their pharmacist rather than their GP.
If you want to reduce the size of your child's, willy, you've got to pay for it.
That's not what
that's just the skin.
What is it? I forget.
It's just the extra skin.
I'm not going to
use your own words.
Educate you on that at this point. But they do need to sort out the NHS. Is it not, though, just a matter, Victor, of giving them more money, or am I missing something?
I think more money and more migration. That's where the migration is really working.
Migration, the NHS depends on it.
Yeah, bring more.
They have to put the entire service online. Part of the ridiculous system, the reason people miss appointments is because most stuff is done by the post.
Yeah, but when you do it over Zoom, it's not effective.
No, I mean communication. Like when they book an appointment for you and you're out of town and you miss the appointment because you didn't know.
They're also talking about creating AI receptionists.
Great.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Mine are so mean.
What, your receptionist?
She treats me like she doesn't know me. I bring her chocolates and everything. She acts like I'm a stranger to her.
So basically you want a robot instead?
I'd like somebody.
I'll be honest, when they answer the phone, they sound like they're AI already. I always thought they were robots.
There is a bit of that. OK, we're going to move on now to the iNews. Victor. And this is the post office. This is an incredible...
Yeah, this is a beautiful story, I mean. No, I'm joking.
What have they done?
So basically, what's happened is the post office have been using racial slurs to describe innocent postmasters under. Now,
as I understand it, this is like a guidebook they've got for staff members.
Yes.
But for some reason, it uses a racial slur from the 19th century.
And for me, if you're going to... No, not 19th century, from the 1800s century.
Yeah, the 19th century.
Now, if you're going to use that racial slur and get caught for it, I think you need to go to the gallows. I think they need to punish them with their heads being chopped off. Let's do it properly.
That's quite an extreme
A little bit. But that's not the employee's problem. I mean, it's in the book. He's just following rules.
I've yet to... hear an explanation as to why, right? So they're saying that this was a historic document, right?
Yeah.
But surely the Post Office updates its internal guidance from time to time. You wouldn't have something... I understand that this kind of language might be used 60, 70 years ago in these documents. There's no way that they wouldn't have updated it at some point.
But part of the reason...
Clearly, they haven't updated it.
Well, people don't use the service because it's so old-fashioned. They don't update the service at all.
And some of the words used, dark-skinned Europeans, who are those? People from Essex? I don't know what's going on over there.
Manchester housewives.
And I've also, just a quick thing, I've looked on it as well, and they've got 57 7 million ready to pay for people who've suffered from these racial slurs. So I've checked my CV and I make sure that I was working in the post office.
I'm dark-skinned in the summer. I'm Italian. Can I get money?
You maybe get.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Yeah, okay.
Let's all go for
We're
it.
going to move on to this story now. This is the Sunday Telegraph. Back in Scott's homeland, has Donald Trump become a lefty?
A little bit. I think Ron DeSantis. He's
you're a fan, are you?
A little bit, yeah. Well, a Navy SEAL, you know, he's adorable. He's only 44. We could use a bit of youth in the White House for a change.
Well, I mean, you can...
The youthful energy. He really wants that
You can
office.
speak on behalf of your country folk, but my understanding is that Americans really love the elder statesmen. They do. They like the older...
They like but they also like the governor of Florida, which he is. And I think they're thinking that Trump is just a bit too old. He's offended too many people.
But Biden's older than him. And
he is, yeah. So we're looking for somebody young for the Democrats.
Okay, but this is an interesting... What the article doesn't say is how Donald Trump is moving to the left. So this is an accusation that Ron DeSantis has said. Donald Trump is bunning... What does he mean? I think
personally, I don't think Donald Trump is left or right. I think Donald Trump will say anything to win. That's all he's here for. He's a winner.
But of course he was a Democrat at one point.
Yeah, whatever it takes. He could be a Democrat. He could say he's black tomorrow morning. He doesn't care. He's come to win. He was on The Apprentice. If you watch The Apprentice, you know what he's about. He's a winner.
Scott, shed any light on this? In what way... I mean, Ron DeSantis, according to this article, hasn't really justified this. In what way is Donald Trump...
It's because Donald Trump criticized DeSantis for taking on Disney around gay rights issues. Donald Trump said, look how backward he is on this. I mean, most of Florida agrees with Disney. Disney creates all these jobs every year. Why is DeSantis shutting that down? And then DeSantis, how dare he criticize me? I was supporting right-wing issues. See how left-wing he is.
This is very interesting, actually, because Ron DeSantis has been very restrained. You know, Donald Trump has been attack, and has been saying all kinds of stuff on his Truth Social.
Well, they're supposed to be friends.
DeSantis hasn't replied ever until now. No, this is the first time.
He was trying to be classy. He also only just announced his presidency run a couple of days ago. That's why.
That would suggest that this nomination procedure is going to be quite ugly. I think it's going to be attacks rather.
I hope so.
Well, it's more entertaining for us.
Of course, I hope it's brutal. The wife, DeSantis' wife, I
haven't seen her.
She's a bristling lady, Macbeth.
I'm going to Google her.
Well, she's shaping his entire candidacy. She's telling him how to dress, how to behave, because the feeling is he's a bit cold and distant, and she's warm.
The thing is, Victor, it's true, is it not, that Donald Trump, in terms of the polling, it doesn't look like he could beat Biden. I think DeSantis, you get him in a debate with Biden, and it's game over, right?
Yeah, maybe, but I'm still Donald Trump. He knows how to win these things.
You think he'll do it?
Yeah, he'll just do stuff. He'll release a couple of memes. I mean, I've read this article, and DeSantis tried to beat him on Twitter.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
No, because Donald Trump's all about the memes.
Exactly.
He's an entertainer. He's an online entertainer.
He knows what we want.
I'd rather keep those people out of the White House and on Twitter. But whatever.
Personally, did you hear DeSantis announce his candidacy on Twitter 2 days ago?
Yes.
For the first half hour, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
He tried to do an interview, didn't he? And it didn't.
And then Donald Trump got wind of that, and he's released a whole heap of memes. He's going to win the US candidacy. He's going to win the presidency on memes. I love America.
Very interesting. Okay, well, that's it for this section. But coming up, we have Kemi the Protector, Oxford Dons teaching how to not debate, and a millennial time bomb waiting to go meh. See you in a sec.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better.
Crop failures, famine, war, suffering on a scale completely unimaginable.
We are putting the cart before the horse. As Charles I said at the scaffold, he was the true defender of liberty.
Yeah, I've completely derailed the conversation.
Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle. This is your first look at Sunday's newspapers. So, Victor, we're going to kick off this section with Sunday's Telegraph, a story about a watchdog that just wants to watch itself.
This is a beautiful story. This is my favourite story of the week. Sunday Telegraph tells us here that workers need to spend 10% of their time to get to know other races and people with different sexual.
Is that what it means?
orientation.
It talks about equality and diversity.
That's what it means. When you read into it, that's what it means. So when you come into work, you spend 10% of your time. So if there's an Indian person, you spend 10% of your time getting to know them. Who knows? On a Friday, you might have jerk chicken Friday. Who knows? Take a black person home. Who knows? This is beautiful. We've been dying for this.
This is very We Are the World, isn't it?
I spend 10% of my day feels like on the phone with Indian people all the time. So
I love it.
I know that culture really well.
I mean, look, what I don't understand about this, so this is regarding the Competition and Markets Authority, and this is their internal guidelines. And they apparently have all sorts of problems going on there. You know, they're not particularly efficient, according to this study, but they're saying 10% of people's working time needs to be on equity, diversity, and inclusion.
We are the world.
But what are they doing, just reading Robin DiAngelo? What
knows?
I mean,
I'm going to get to know some poor people.
Music.
I don't know any poor people. But there's a council block
they don't care about poor people.
Well, but that's diversity, isn't it? Really?
That's not what they mean, though. But it's interesting that this body has continued its membership of Stonewall's Diversity Champions program. That should tell you everything we need to know.
There is a Bangladeshi guy in the building behind us living in his Mercedes, and he grooms girls in there. I could go hang out with them.
That would be part of 10% of your work, would it?
That'd be good, yeah, it'd be hot.
I think we should do that now.
Learn a lot, yeah. Give him a call. He's always on the phone.
I think given that the article just doesn't clarify what they mean by that, we'll leave it there. We're going to the Telegraph again now. Kemi Badenoch. And what's this about? An equalities chief being hounded?
I don't understand this article at all. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I'll give you some background to this. So this is the Baroness Faulkner.
Who? People we have never even heard of. I don't understand this.
Well,
I love this.
Okay, so what has happened is that Kemi Badenoch has now stood up for this Baroness Faulkner.
Right.
Now, Baroness Faulkner was basically attacked by various. It's a kind of witch hunt from civil servants. A lot of people have accused her of transphobic language and this kind of thing.
Oh, right.
And one of the examples given was that Faulkner allegedly said something about, described a trans TV star as a bloke in lipstick. But what was that?
Not very gracious, is it?
But what was actually happening there is that she was quoting the kind of abuse that this person was getting in order to criticise it.
Oh, right.
Now, that's a major difference, isn't it?
Right.
But when Channel 4 News reported on this, they reported the lie.
Right.
That, in other words, she was just abusing this. So this is, and that is a real problem, isn't it? So now that we've sort of had some time to look into it, it's quite clear what this is really about is that Faulkner has been supporting legal reforms to ensure that women's spaces are guarded, are safeguarded.
Did she say something crazy like a woman is born a woman, so she stays a woman? Something crazy like that?
This is exactly right.
I have no...
How
could she?
So effectively what we're dealing with here is a woman who is basically trying to promote women's rights and women's single-sex spaces, being accused of being transphobic in any way possible, finding scraps here and there, just anything at all.
I have no opinion on this. I'm not getting cancelled. I'm not getting cancelled.
I saw Lady Faulkner. I saw Lady Faulkner, a photo of her. She does look like a guy in a dress with lipstick on.
That is outrageous, Scott. We're going to move on to the next story, which is Telegraph again. Victor, what's this? Oxford Dons. Now, I don't think these people really understand what their job is, do they?
Yeah, not really.
So basically, Professor Stock wants to go to the Oxford University.
Yeah, Kathleen Stock, author of Material Girls.
We love her.
Very good book.
And she wants to do a public talk about trans within...
yeah, I mean, it's the Oxford Union, so they have these speakers.
And to be fair, there's nothing wrong with that. But some of the people there are very upset about this, and they want to stop it.
It's getting quite intense, actually, because you've had various student groups, including the Oxford Student LGBTQI+ group, posting...
And Holly Willoughby.
Well, of course, I mean, obviously.
Her feelings are about this, too.
But, you know, posting various sort of outright defamatory comments about Kathleen Stock, and the flames are now being fanned by these academics who've written an open letter effectively saying we don't want free speech at Oxford University.
But she believes that biological sex in humans is real. It's insane.
Yeah,
How could she say that?
It's so evil, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes no sense. But to be fair, if I was her, just go there and talk about something else, because when they get onto you...
But that's what they want, Victor.
I know,
they want you to back down.
She can talk about girl things like flowers.
Yeah, but you're going to have to back down.
She could talk about bonbons and watching movies in the daytime.
I don't think, Scott. I mean, look, for instance, this letter, right, this letter which has come out of these academics, they've actually used the phrase, trans students should not be made to debate their existence. Kathleen Stock has never denied the existence of anyone. This is
How could she? They're after her all the time.
Right, exactly. You know, if only they didn't exist, it would really help. You know, but as it is, she's getting people screaming and shouting.
My favourite line was toxic culture of bullying. I mean, once you label someone like that, they're finished.
What I find maddening about this is that people can't just say, look, we disagree with her and we want to have a debate or a discussion. What they have to say is they have to lie about what her views are in order to try and get her
And they have to
the
lie about
platform.
their feelings and say that they don't feel safe with her on campus.
Which is obviously not true as well. I mean, and the other thing is, effectively, they're saying that she should be de-platformed. They're saying, their defence is, well, look, we're not stopping her from speaking. She can still go out and speak. Well, yeah, but what you are doing is depriving students the opportunity to see her if they want to. Why should a small group of activists get to decide what every other person at the university gets to hear?
Because those are some large guys in dresses with lipstick on. That's why. I'm honest about this. If I was Kathleen Stock, I admire her and she's great and I agree with everything she says, but her safety's at risk and these guys are really scary. And they put on balaclavas and they hide their identity and they run and start punching people.
I mean, we've seen some actual violence from trans rights activists.
It's terrible. It's just misogyny. It's just men who hate women. It's terrible.
Because they got the strength. Oh, no, I'm not going to say that.
They do. Well, they do. These guys, they really are quite brutal, actually. I worry.
Well, you have to say, like, the number of sort of death and rape threats that come the way of gender-critical feminists from trans rights activists.
Rape threats?
Yes, a lot. It happens all the time. And the thing is, that's not very ladylike behaviour.
It's not.
Let's be honest about it. That's not it's very masculine behaviour, isn't it? So if they want us to take their gender identity seriously, maybe stop sending death threats to people. How about that? That would be a great
Even
start.
to the mincing, the complaints, that's a lady thing.
Do the sort of Dylan Mulvaney prancing around. That's what all women do.
Exactly.
Apparently.
When they put new underwear on.
No misogyny here whatsoever. Don't worry about
Look at me,
that.
I'm a girl. I'm a girl.
Okay, we're going to move on now.
What a girl looks like. Look at me. I'm a girl.
Thanks, Scott, for that impersonation. We're going to move on now. This is, again, the Telegraph. Come on, other newspapers. So, not a great time to debate in the US either.
Exactly. Same thing over there. Woke judges are only approving left-wing views, say the Sunday Telegraph. Apparently in U.S. high school debating, it's under threat because there are 250,000 students who nationally debate in the U.S. in high school levels, and it's been captured by, quote, the radical left.
What I find weird about this is some of the judges have been open about their views. They're saying, we will judge the kids on the basis of how much we agree with them or not.
Yeah.
That's not what a debating contest is.
And we give a salute to anybody who's a minority. Black people get better scores right away.
I mean, how about, I mean, that's the soft racism of that's so patronising.
It's terrible.
So, Victor, I mean, this is a weird one, isn't it? Because, you know, debating schools and debating clubs in schools, the idea is that you often debate things you don't actually agree with.
Exactly.
It's about the discipline of learning how to argue. And if the judges are saying whoever we agree with gets to win, or if someone's an ethnic minority, they get to win, What's the point?
I agree with the ethnic minority; they get to win.
Oh, wait a minute. If you're a radical feminist in a wheelchair and someone's disagreeing with you, it takes you longer to wheel yourself across the room. You've got to give them a bit of an advantage, these people.
So you think there should be sort of a handicap system in the debating process?
Maybe let's just get rid of debating systems, period.
Well, clearly people want to.
That's what it really is.
You know what? Put on the gloves and start punching. Why is everybody so weak?
It's so ridiculous. Okay, we're going to move on now. This one, finally, this is another one from the Telegraph. No, thank God, it's the Sunday Times. Okay,
yes.
Victor.
So the I've never been
millennials.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are creating an electrical time bomb for the Tories. So what that means is
an electoral time bomb.
I said electrical.
How old are you anyway?
Me?
Yeah.
Are you not in the millennial?
You're a millennial, aren't you?
How old do you think I am?
Look, let's not get into that.
I'm married for one thing, so back off.
We should actually clarify this. So millennials are between the ages of, 24 and 40?
Yeah, 25 and 40. So you're in there somewhere, right?
I'm in there somewhere.
You're a millennial. That's
I'm a millennial.
So what is it basically, this article is about how people, when they grow older, they tend to become more right-wing.
Yes.
But millennials are not. They're getting more left-wing, and that means the Conservative Party is in a bad way.
But they're saying that the Conservative Party is in a bad way, but in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, people are going away from politics.
Yeah.
They're more interested on who's got the biggest followers, their Twitter accounts. That's what's the main focus nowadays. But
that's why politicians go onto Twitter. They're trying to tap into that, but it's not really, it's not really
working.
Yeah.
So look, Scott, but there is an important point to be had here, insofar as the Tories have always relied on the fact that people generally get more right-wing as they get older. But those people had houses. They had a stake in society.
Yes.
And these younger people, the millennials, don't have that.
They feel abandoned by politics. They feel like they can't rely on their parents for finance right now. Some of them are living at home and their parents are saying, when are you going to leave? Their situation financially is very precarious.
Yes.
And when that happens, and it's been that way pretty much their entire adult life, and they're being told that they have no pensions, the pensions are gone, your job security is zero, so they're very worried about economics. And the economic policies that the Conservatives are putting forward are not supporting them.
And as well, more and more people are starting to notice that the Tories and Labour, they're kind of sounding the same.
They are.
And it's hard to vote someone different. I think they just need to put the general election on TikTok and just go.
Well, we could just do it. Just do it. Have a clap on.
I think they trust Labour to be a bit more supportive financially for them. I think they think that the economic policies Labour puts forward.
I think Victor's got a point. There's not much to divide.
Yeah, they're both pretty much the same. I couldn't even tell you who's who. I don't.
Yeah, when I hear Labour talk, they're a bit more serious.
Do you think?
I think Conservatives tend to have a laugh a bit more.
And the solution to that is to bring Boris Johnson back, right?
Exactly. That's what's needed.
That's what Victor wants.
I just want to see Boris.
He's all about that. Okay, well, that's this section kaput. But join us for the final part with female footballer hamstrings, the worst ever air passenger, and the most extreme effort taken to find a phone. See you in a sec.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners, your first look at Sunday's newspapers. Scott, we've got the Sunday Mirror here, a story about someone who just wanted to pop out for a sec.
He was uncomfortable, you guys. So he opened the emergency door because he was seated near there. He wanted a breath of fresh air.
On the plane, we should say. This was.
Oh, yeah, sorry, on the plane. They were 700 feet up. They were about to land. The journey was almost over.
So he thought he could probably just jump the last bit.
I think he thought, I'm feeling a bit flushed. So he opened that door. And the stewardesses couldn't do anything because they were seated because the plane was landing.
And there's footage of this online, people screaming.
All this air was coming in.
Loads of people.
I'll be honest, I actually sympathise with him. I mean, airplane food, no Wi-Fi. It must have been a tough ride.
Yeah. He even wanted a cigarette. He's just following rules.
Yeah.
What I don't understand about this, Scott, okay, can you do this? Can you open that door? Because I thought you couldn't, right?
That's another thing.
But if it's a case that we have all these measures, you're not allowed to take liquids on because terrorists might mix up a bomb and explode it. But if they could just open the door...
On Asian airlines, you can.
You can.
Depends where you get the plane from, I guess.
Well, yeah.
Oh, so on most planes you can't do this?
I guess on that one you can. He's in his 30s, this guy. And they said he has emotional problems. We're going to try to help him out.
Yeah.
And probably not let him on a plane for a while again.
I think the padlock that door shut. How about that?
Maybe that. Or
maybe it's as simple as that.
Maybe put that chain lock like I have on my front door.
Yeah, just do something like that.
Maybe
you can get them in Argos for like £5.
Maybe he had superhuman strength. He's an Avenger.
Well, it could be that. OK, we're going to move on now to the Sunday Times next. And Victor, does the iPhone need a new flotation app?
I think this is my favourite story of them all.
Okay.
Indian official drains the whole reservoir to find his phone.
Right, so he dropped it in the reservoir, yes?
Yeah.
This is Rajesh Vishwas.
Yeah, and just so we get an understanding there, this wasn't 1 day of work. This was 3 days to pump millions of litre so he can get his £1,000 Samsung handset before his wife saw it. That's what it was.
Yeah, but we should say this was a government official. That's why he could do it.
Yeah, that's why he could do it.
And he said there were secrets on the government information on the phone he needed desperately.
Yeah, or maybe details of his illicit affairs or whatever. Who knows?
And what the best part was... they stopped doing this because they received a complaint from an Indian woman called Karen.
Yeah.
OK. I just think it's an incredible misuse of power, isn't it?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, but we've all done it. If you wanted your phone bad enough...
Well, look, people get upset when they lose their phone, but...
They sent divers in. He tried that.
Yeah, they even sent divers in.
Yeah, they
beautiful.
tried. He tried.
I mean, look, maybe he's telling the truth. Maybe it was government secrets. But then if
the truth, that phone cost £1,000. That's a lot of money.
His wife wanted that phone back.
You think so?
And she wanted to see what was on it.
There's water everywhere, but there's only one personal phone.
Because it's going to still work.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to move on to The Observer for a story about women's football hamstrings. What does our resident expert, Scott Capurro, have to say about
Well, apparently women injure their hamstrings more often than men. It used to be the other way around. But now, women are injuring their hamstrings really frequently. They're wondering how they can help women. FIFA is analysing this, trying to come up with a solution. Apparently, it's because the women are not playing competitively enough.
Right.
Have you seen women's football?
Yeah, it's
no, I have a few, but they're not. No, I have some self-respect, but they're not training hard enough. They're not running fast enough when they do train, because that's when it happens, when you run quickly or you make a quick gesture with your feet.
But this is just, OK, I don't know anything about football, male or female.
As I'm saying,
so...
my hamstring's cramping right now.
I'm going to disagree. I think this is happening because women's football is too competitive. I mean, when they're winning 5-0, you're meant to relax.
Yeah.
Not women's football. They want 6, 7, 8. They want 20-0, and they're so competitive.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me that their hamstrings are going.
Apparently, they play a lot of games, but they don't train hard enough. That's the problem. They're playing 2 or 3 games a week, but they got to train more.
So is it just that, you know, the history of women's football is it doesn't go back as far as men's football?
Yeah.
There's more they have to learn about the effects that this can have, and it's becoming more and more popular, of course.
And because I don't want to listen to the men, so it's just going to take a long time.
I also think they just didn't know how to train women to compete at this high level, so they're figuring it out, right?
They're working out. All right, fair enough. More Observer now. Victor, what's this about stars disappearing?
This was just the most weirdest story for me. For all you nerds out there, this story is for you. Stars could be invisible within 20 years as light pollution, brightness, night skies. I mean, who cares?
You don't like looking at the stars?
No.
You're not a romantic?
No. Google.
They're invisible already in London.
Yeah.
They are.
I didn't even notice.
This is upsetting to me. You know, I go to Sark quite a lot, and Sark doesn't have streetlights because it's illegal on the island of Sark. So you can see the stars beautifully at night. It's really, really clear. Honestly, Victor, it'll change your mind. If you go there and see that. I think it's really sad that in London, as you say, because of all the light pollution.
I'm going to say this is a first world problem.
It is a first world problem.
Nobody cares.
Well, no, I think there are places. When I was staying in Mumbai, I was in a high-rise and you still couldn't see the stars.
Yeah.
Who noticed this?
Apparently, this is to do with LEDs, like the proliferation of LEDs. That's what's particularly affecting our view of the stars. I think it's a great shame. And look, ancient civilizations used the stars. The Egyptians, you know, the stars were sort of
I'm crying inside.
I noticed a lot. I spent a lot of time at that high-rise I stayed in Mumbai outdoors on the balcony because we were overlooking a men's prison.
What?
Yeah. And there's a lot of activity at night in a men's prison. I learned a lot, actually.
Wow, this is...
I think we're going into dark territory.
This is a different story.
Move on to his final story of the night. Scott, appropriately, it's the Telegraph again. We're going to also have a problem seeing Mars.
Yeah. Apparently Mars bars are going to go paper wrappers.
Who cares?
Well, because people care about this.
Okay, so wait, let's describe. So Mars bars are changing. So at the moment, they've got their plastic wrappers.
They have, for quite a while, had plastic. Since 1966, they have had plastic wrappers.
Yes.
But they're going to change it back because the plastic wrappers get everywhere. They pollute the planet. It's really, really bad. And they think with the paper wrappers, it also creates jobs because it has to be hand wrapped. So that's good for the economy as well.
But it also means they're going to be more expensive.
Of course they are.
But my favourite part of it is, if you go into your supermarket, get one of these paper Mars, and you find it doesn't taste as fresh.
Yes.
Well,
you get your money back. Fat kids are going to love that.
They're going to go back a few times.
I want another one.
I forced my way through 5 dodgy Mars bars just to prove a point.
They're going to try 500 Tesco's next week and see how people respond to it. I don't eat that sort of thing. Obviously,
I'll try.
But I do wonder if people will be pleased by it because I agree with you. What people really like, they don't care about the paper. They want it really, really crunchy and.
Well, there's a kind of retro element to this. So apparently, before they went plastic, they always used to do this with the paper thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So in that sense, there's nothing wrong with it. People might like that. They might enjoy the kind of sense of nostalgia about.
But reading the story, my main concern is why is there 500 Tesco's? Are they trying to take over the world? I mean,
of course they are. You're only just figuring out.
I didn't know.
Apparently,
they did a study on crisp wrappers, and they found in 2016 a bunch of they scanned beaches and they hadn't decomposed in 30 years.
Right.
Wrappers. So they're saying without decomposition, the planet's going to get warmer and warmer. You know, the polar bears.
Yeah, well, they're getting covered in Mars bar.
I've got a plot twist. I've got a plot twist.
Go on.
The chocolates are making everyone fat. Just ban them.
Ban chocolates.
Simple.
Wow. On that radical proposal from Victor Daniels.
You're the most fascist millennial I've ever met in my life.
But look, the show's nearly over. Let's take another quick look at Sunday's front pages. So the Mail on Sunday leads with Schofield lover was just 15 when they met. The Sunday Telegraph has Sunak asks stores to cap basic food prices. Also a story there about mermaids, the trans lobby. Observer has ministers in bitter fight to halt release of COVID secrets. The Sun, Holly Willoughby says Phil lied to me. The Sunday Express says we can cut migration and thrive. And the Daily Star also goes with the Holly Willoughby story, I'm so hurt, Phil lied to me. So those were your front pages. That is all we've got time for tonight. Thank you ever so much to my guests tonight, Scott Capurro and Victor Daniels, on his first ever appearance on Headliners. Hopefully won't be the last. Leo Kearse is hosting tomorrow with Josh and Francis Foster, so do tune in. That's going to be at 11 o'clock. And if you're watching the 5 a.m. repeat, then please do stay tuned for The Breakfast Show because that's coming up right next. See you soon. Farewell.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The people's channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my two comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Monday to Thursday night.